Craig Richardson from KMOJ. I'm on the air Sunday night, 6 to 10. We do a show called Back in the Day. We were supposed to be outside, but we had to bring our show inside today because the weather wouldn't cooperate, but we're still gonna have our program and still have a wonderful show for you. It is time now for me to bring to the front stage, we're gonna pretend this is the stage right here, and bring our featured guest speaker up, Mr. Jesse Ross. Give him a warm welcome, everybody. Jesse Ross. Okay, he's got a booming voice, so he does not need the mic. Give him a hand for that. He don't need the mic today.
So good afternoon. It's still afternoon, right? All right, yes. Good afternoon, people. So again, my name is Jesse Ross. So I don't like long bios. I ain't a big league. So the only thing I would say you need to know about me is I'm from the north side. I live like maybe 7 minutes away, right off Laurie and Sheridan. Grown up on the north side. Love everything about the north side and love everything about places like Twin Cities Rise that make an imprint and an impact in the community. So how I got here, Stephanie saw me speaking at an event in May and randomly called me up and was like, hey, we got this thing going on, would you want to come? And I was like, sure, no problem, all about community. So full time I actually work at the Minneapolis Foundation. Y'all come on here, we good, trust me. Trust me, I promise you, I'm not like a lecturer, I'm not that important. And I'm a dad, so I got a bunch of kids, so that, trust me, she's good. I work at the Minneapolis Foundation, basically doing a bunch of work. Come on in, sweetheart. Come on in. You good. You good. I work at the Minneapolis Foundation, helping. Basically, my role is to help the community stay connected to each other and help the foundation stay connected to community. So again, events like this, I love and I appreciate. So I won't talk for too long, but I happen to write a book. The story about this book is called Fathers Matter. The story behind the book isn't anything I think that's amazing, but definitely a powerful part of my story. My dad, my father and I did not have a great relationship growing up. It was pretty much my mother and I. We lived around the corner. It was just her. Me and my mom. My pops wasn't around, but not really around. I say that a lot because I know some of us have experienced that. They were never married, and I'm actually the second youngest of 9. So I'm 32, my little brother's 24. My dad would be 70, he just turned 74. So the whole Papa was a Rolling Stone, that's real. that's real in my family. But it just was what it was. And excuse me if I sniff or cough, I'm just getting over a cold, so I apologize ahead of time. So I remember life with my mom was just what it was. We did everything. She cooked. We're from Mississippi, so y'all know, folks from the South, it's like Thanksgiving every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, twice on Sunday. And so my house was the house that everybody came for. Although it was just me and her in the house, she would cook for like 15 people because it was always people coming over. And that was life for me. So community was always at the heart of it. Cousins and people that ain't your cousins, but you call them your cousins, and the new uncles and all that stuff. That's just what it was. Growing up, I saw my mom and my dad, when they were dating, just be in I wouldn't call it a legit abusive relationship, but definitely a dysfunctional relationship. And so, again, it was what it was, and I saw and paid attention. So I'll fast forward a little bit. I remember in the 5th grade, I went to Ascension, right around the corner, and over the intercom, I hear this. Would you guys please pray for Jesse Ross? It's a Catholic school. As his mom was just taken to the hospital. And I was like, oh, okay, that's different. So Uncle comes, picks me up, takes me to the hospital. I get there, and she says, I'm like, hey, Mom, what's going on? I was at work. She worked at the Minneapolis Urban League before the new building. Her and Gary Sutton were pretty tight. And so she was like, I was just dizzy at work. And they wanted to make sure everything was okay. And so, they wanted to check out everything. We're good. So we proceeded about our day. And I always tell people this part of it because I think it's funny. she would say, you know, hey, how was your day? Oh, it was good. You got any homework? And I'm like, no. She was like, boy, stop lying. 'Cause, you know, you're young. You don't never really want to do homework, but you got it. And so she told me, go stay with your friend Sean, and then I'll pick you up tomorrow from school, and you know, we'll do whatever we do. And I said, okay, cool. So very next day, I get to school, and I hear this over the intercom. Would you guys please pray for Jesse Ross, as his mother just passed away? Now they announced this over the intercom, which I think is crazy. Still to this day, I talk to my principal, like, what were you thinking? But I remember sitting in a chair, very similar to like where you are, thinking my life would be different. I don't know what that looks like, but I just lost the most important person in my life. And so fast forwarding again, I went to go live with my dad, and I told you he was around, but not really around. He stepped up to the plate. So my grandma comes up from Mississippi and says, oh, well, I'm taking him back with me. And I'm like, I don't want to go to Mississippi. I mean, we like in the country. Braxton, Mississippi, where the heat waves bounce off the ground. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. You know, friends and all that stuff. And so he stepped up to the plate and said, no, you're going to come live with me. Now, life was different, though. I remember I told you it was my mother and myself, and maybe somebody living with us kind of here and there, I went from that to my father, my uncle, his son, my little brother, and my dad. 5 guys in the house. And I don't know if y'all ever lived with 5 dudes, but all we ate was meat, bread, and something out of a can, no sides. And again, we didn't have a great relationship. And so I just remember going to school. We lived across the street from North, and I would have to walk to Ascension because it was so close, and I was just going to school. I ended up in high school at De La Salle, found my own bus, we would figure that out, and all this. I literally was taking care of myself. On an honor roll, playing basketball, involved in student government, GPA good, but he never knew what was actually happening because, unbeknownst to me, he was still dealing with his stuff. He was trying to figure out that I just took in 2 kids who are mine, but I've never actually had to take care of the rest of my kids. And so I couldn't see his struggle, and I'm super grateful for it, which is where the book came from. But I just remember him being so disconnected. One story I always tell, one day I came home, so I went to De La Salle, we had private school, we had to tuck our shirts in, I thought it was stupid, so I didn't have my shirt tucked in multiple times. Got written up for it, come on in, you're good. Got written up multiple times. So this day I come home and there's a letter that says, hey, your son has gotten 16 detentions because of his shirt being untucked. And I don't know if he just had a bad day, but he was pissed. And he proceeded, I literally only remember like he threw the phone or punched, or there was some type of action that came towards me and pretty much socked me. And I remember that moment, like, again, all the feeling of being abandoned by my mom, feeling abandoned, not being abandoned, but feeling abandoned, and us, my father and I, not having a great relationship. I remember going up to my room, I cried my eyes out. I wrote 2 letters on a piece of paper. One to my birth mother, talking about basically, why did you leave me? My life wouldn't be so tough or in this way if you hadn't left. And then I wrote a letter to my stepmother, my dad's wife. And I just said, like, I can't do this anymore. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. I feel like I'm, you know, it's not my job to take care of my little brother. I'm on the honor roll. What else do you want me to do? And I called my homeboy and said, hey, I need you to come and get me. Literally packed a bag and smooth jumped out the window, like almost broke my leg. I could have just walked out the back door. I don't know why I just jumped out the window. you know, high school kids are dramatic. I'm sorry, no offense, but high school kids are a little dramatic. And I just remember that day. From that day, I was technically 15, but my birthday was in October. So, as a sophomore in high school, I left home and I never came back. I went from friend's house to park bench, to friend's house, to sleeping at the bridge, to sleeping under the Lowry Tunnel. I've literally probably slept in every Minneapolis park. South side, north side, northeast, whatever. Because in my mind, any place was better than where I was with my dad. And that was because, again, unbeknownst to me, my dad was still dealing. He was trying to figure out how to unpack this stuff. And so, I'll fast forward a ton. We didn't talk for a long time, and there were a ton of conversations in between us not talking that were pretty heated. He's a military cat, pretty stocky dude, strong personality. I think I'm a stocky dude, strong personality. And so we would bump heads often. And it was the progress I made was trying to figure out how do I respect this man who I have his name and who he is my father, and I only get one, but there's a whole bunch of baggage that has happened. And I think sometimes we don't think about the baggage that not only we carry, but the baggage that other people carry and we're part of. So I remember a couple heated arguments we got into it. One day I was driving, I lived in Rockford, Illinois for a certain amount of time. I remember driving down 94 or 90 and just some conversation we had with my dad, and I just hung up the phone and I cried like 40 miles. And I remember saying, like, I can't live like this anymore. We didn't talk for maybe 2 or 3 months. When I was in Rockford, Illinois, we might have talked. I was there for 2 years. We might have talked 2 or 3 times. But I needed that break to get me right in order to build our relationship and rebuild our relationship. So again, I'm fast forwarding, I'm moving back. I got married in 2009. I remember that was the first time I remember my dad saying he loved me. Now, I told you, I was at home, went to live with him in the 5th grade. I do not remember my father telling me that he loved me until May of 2009. And I was just bawling like a baby. I was like, and that kind of started or restarted our relationship. So I said all that to kind of set up why I think places like this are important, and even why the book. So my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer 2.5 years ago. And again, we're good now. And so in this place now where we are, we talk literally every day. And George knows my uncle. My dad and my uncle are twins, and so my uncle lives 5 blocks from me. He calls me every day for some reason. But my dad lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so he told me, it took him about 6 months to actually tell me something was wrong. Now again, I'm thinking of an African-American man from the South, pride. I mean, you know, he just couldn't say something's wrong. And many of us as men, we deal with pride. I deal with it, we all deal with it. And so finally when he told me, I was like, dude, you're not just going to the doctor often just cause. Like, that's not normal. I know you're getting old, but that's not normal. So he finally broke down and said, okay, they found something in this. And I remember sitting at the table trying to figure out what I could do. And I was like helpless. Because he's miles away, he's dealing with something that I've never experienced. And I don't feel like I have the opportunity to really do anything but support him. Right after that feeling of helplessness, there was a notepad right next to me and a pen. And for some reason, whatever we were talking about, I said, well, what do you want your legacy to be when you leave here? You know, like, even if it's just for our kids, like for my brother and sister, what do you want us to know about you? What do you want people to know about you? And I just started writing. And I literally just started writing, I started writing, and like literally 6 months later it turned into a book. And so I wrote the book simply because I wanted my dad to see that I'm super proud of the progress that he made. Not because of his own life, but because of my life. He literally stopped drinking cold turkey. I mean, I remember the day I remember seeing my dad passed out or sleep, whatever, drunk on the toilet from just smoking weed, drinking. I remember going with my dad in his little blue GMC Sierra to make drug deals. This same dude literally stopped drinking cold turkey, stopped selling weed cold turkey, stopped being a womanizer cold turkey, like just got his life together, bought a house. All because he would always say, I had 2 boys I had to take care of. And so I usually start anytime I speak with asking 3 questions, and I hope these 3 questions you can take with you. What do you want from and for your life? What do you want from and for your life? Second question is, what are you willing to start and stop to get it? What are you willing to start and stop to get it? The third question is, who's counting on you? And so I know this probably might not be part of it, but I'm going to switch it up just a little bit. I would love for you, who's counting on that third question? Can we just go around and get some interaction? I know y'all want to hear me talk the whole time. Who's counting on you?
Family. You know, I take care of my mom who's elderly, so she suffers from dementia right now, COPD. She's the whole reason I moved here and decided to change a lot of things about myself. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't even be here at Twin Cities Rise, meeting you today, meeting all of you guys that's here. So yeah, what are you willing to stop and start, or you know, things of that? Who's counting on me? Everybody that's around me. Because whatever they see, I'm a reflection. So
appreciate that. What are you? Who's counting on you?
Kids.
Sincere, right?
Sincere.
And
That's mommy's Mariella.
yeah, okay. Great.
I've got 15 grandchildren that I moved back up here to be close to, and this morning about 8:06, my first great granddaughter was born.
congratulations.
I want to leave a legacy that they can remember.
Appreciate that. Who's counting on you?
That's a good question, because I'm single and ain't got no kids.
I don't know.
You know, right, but I mean, I guess, you know, I've kind of lived a selfish kind of life, to be honest, but I've never really thought about it, but you've given me something to like really think about. I've never really thought about it in that context. You know, I think I kind of avoided it, but thank you for bringing it to mind.
Counting on me, my wife, children. Children are grown and gone now, and a couple grandkids. Kind of counting on myself a little bit.
There you go.
Step up. Accountable to God Almighty.
Appreciate that. Anybody else that want to jump in? Ladies, y'all can jump in too. The same. Not Texas speaking. Who's counting on you?
My father used to say that it's up to every generation to go farther than the previous ones. Economically, mentally, emotionally, financially. And so I would say that I owe something to people who struggled before me. They're counting on me to be more than they could. And I would say that children and grandchildren are counting on me. And I'm counting on myself to live whatever I was supposed to do in my own life.
Yeah, I hear so many varieties of answers, and I love it because I mean, kind of like you said, like it does help us put things in perspective. I've never asked my dad that question, and I don't really know why. I'm just thinking about it right now. But if I were to answer that question, I tell people I have a tribe, a legit tribe. I got 5 kids, 16, 12, 11, 7, 5, and then a 2-year-old nephew, if you count 6, who lives with me kind of off and on. And I always think about them. They're counting on me. I think about the kids who live literally a block and a half away, who play basketball every summer, every single day, almost getting hit by cars because they're not in summer school or whatever. Thinking about them, that they need to know not only that someone who looks like them, who comes from where they come from, can make it, whatever that is, but also that they don't have to live the life that they see on TV. And so I think if you really think about who's counting on you, if you really think about those 3 questions, that should inform where you go, how you do your day to day. So I'm 32 years old. I get up at 3 o'clock every single morning. I don't know why I started. I didn't start there, but 3 o'clock every single morning. Partly because there was some stuff I wanted to do, and I just didn't have enough time to do it. I got up every single morning. Actually, it was 3:10. I needed 10 minutes. But I got up at 3:10, and I would write. I would write for an hour, and out of getting up at 3:10 every morning, and about 6 months later, like a book came out. A small adjustment that I felt like I could make, but that produced something that has brought me here today. But also, I've been able to travel the country and speak and talk to folks about a book. Like about something that I thought was kind of like minuscule. It's still weird. Like when Stephanie called me, was like, "Hey, we want to have you come in." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool. I want to buy some books." I was like, "Books? My book?" Because it's just not what I'm used to. But I also think, again, back to the 3rd question, when my kids saw the box come in the house and they opened it up and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm on a book, I'm famous." That was like, I literally almost started, I was like, oh, I can't believe it. Because I need them, they're counting on me. And I need them to see, like, hey, if your dad can write a book, the least you could do is write one book. You know what I mean? Like, if I could stop doing a bunch of stuff that, and create a different pattern for my last name, at least they can live into that. If I can, you know, figure out how to pay for college and get through and work and stop and work and do all this stuff and get through, like, whatever that thing is, I need them to see, like, at least I can do this. And so I think as men, and this isn't anything against any women, like, I think as men, it's our job to kind of set the standard. So that's one thing. The other thing I always think about is, as we're going through our life and those things of where we want, what do we want from and for, there's got to be a sacrifice. We've got to be willing to sacrifice something. So for me, it was sacrificing sleep. For me, it was sacrificing hanging out with the same crew. I remember in 2006 or 7, one or the other, Memorial Day at Lake Calhoun, or the new name that I don't know how to say anymore. A bunch of our friends grew up probably since kindergarten, hanging out, doing the same thing, having the same conversations. We talking about who's dating who's gonna smoke what, who's gonna go to the club, and whatever else. Some probably terrible thing. And I was always kind of different in the crew, and so I remember, I'll kind of close with this. I remember finally saying, like, man, when we gonna talk about something different? And everybody, a couple of guys, oh, here goes Jesse. And I was like, no, seriously, we're gonna talk about, like, owning a house, and, you know, some investments, property, kind of just getting married, just different stuff that we're not used to. And I remember that day, some of the guys were like, yeah, we're not on that. And some of the guys were like, yeah, that's actually, we're good. 2 of the guys are no longer here. They were killed maybe 2 years after that. 2 of the other guys are just literally kind of just living life. Like, just literally just living life. And the other 2 guys that kind of we all were tight with, we got families, we're married, bought houses, and really like in a career that they enjoy. And so I always thought about that of like, man, what are the sacrifices that we're willing to make? I was willing to stop hanging out with certain people. I was willing to start doing different things that got me around different people that created a whole different narrative for my life. And so I always like to end with this. There's a movie, one of my favorite movies, called Taken. Liam Nelson. And there's a scene in the movie, if I had a video I'd play it, but he basically, so the premise of the movie, if you haven't seen it, he kidnapped his daughter. He kidnapped his daughter, and he was like an ex-military cat, and he always says, I have a special set of skills. So he's talking to the guy, he's going across the country and finding the lady, the person who took his daughter, and he says, hey, I don't know who you are or what you do. All I know is you have my daughter. I just want her back. Like, give me my daughter back and we'll be good. I promise you nothing will happen. I'll just drop it. He said, but if you don't, I have a special set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. Again, return my daughter, give her back, and we good. But if not, I will find you.